if I can empower you to take that first step and look at it, you then empower yourself after that, because you basically have done something then to get your power back, and then you can continue to snowball that. And the more that you look at it and the more that you continue to address it, you begin empowering your own self to move forward with your money.
That was Tiffany Angeles, and this is episode 72 of the Chopped Podcast. Hey everyone, I'm Marley of the blog Namely Marley. I am your host, and this is the Chopped Podcast. You know, this is the podcast designed for people just like you, bloggers who love food. Each week, my goal is to share with you interviews, thoughts, stories, everything related to food blogging so that we can all learn together about what works with food blogging and maybe even a little bit about what doesn't. Today, I'm talking to Tiffany Angeles, and she's of the site by the same name. I first learned about Tiffany from a Creative Live episode that she did on making money and being an entrepreneur. And I just immediately thought, oh, I've got to have her on the Chopped Podcast because, you know, making money and being an entrepreneur is really what food bloggers are all about. And I think anytime you can have insights from somebody like that, you know, that's really studied a subject matter and they can provide insights to help you. Maybe, I don't know, like if you've got some baggage or blockages in certain areas, they can really have an impact. And in fact, as an entrepreneur, making money is kind of part of the job description, because if we don't make money, then most of us would probably have to close up shop unless we have, you know, somebody that's taking care of us. However, what we don't realize is that a lot of times it's easy to have hangups about money. And I could be raising my hand right now and testifying that, yes, that could be me as well. I mean, we may have created a story about rich people, that they're stingy or undeserving or lucky. And if you were like me and you grew up under economically challenged or otherwise known as really poor circumstances, you can have a lot of money hangups. We can associate money with success and then tie those two together and somehow feel like, you know, we're not successful if we don't, you know, really maybe we're going for the feeling of success and we've tied money to that somehow. These hangups can lead to baggage, and that baggage, as you know, if you're trying to walk down a sidewalk and you've got a bunch of heavy baggage, it can really slow you down. So Tiffany reminds us that dealing with money is really a lot about mindset. You know this is true about productivity, right? You know that mindset is a big part of that. Like if you can think positive thoughts, that can really help you become more productive and more effective. It's true about creativity, for sure. We know that, right? It's so important to stay positive and to, you know, have affirmations that help you get through certain periods. So it's really no surprise that money carries the same mindset issues. So Tiffany says this, I love this quote: "Entrepreneurship is the modern journey to self-discovery." Wow. So just consider the fact that you're on this blogging journey, another step in your self-discovery process. And in fact, understanding your thoughts about money and how it impacts you as an entrepreneur is also just another opportunity to get to know yourself. I'm really excited to share this interview with you. Tiffany has a lot of great tips, and I'm really looking forward to you hearing them as well. So before we move on to the interview, a quick word about the Chopped Conference. If you're serious about taking your food blog to the next level, you are going to want to come to Chopped Conference because we provide some seriously awesome content delivered by amazing speakers, but in the most welcoming, inspiring atmosphere possible. I mean, our goal has really been to make sure that everybody feels welcome. Everybody feels like, you know, an equal partner on the dance floor of Chopped Conference. You'll meet Kara Ansas of the site Fork and Beans, Ali E. Bright of Gimme Some Oven, Emma Chapman of A Beautiful Mess, and so many more amazing people. So head to choppedcon.com and click on register to buy your ticket today. We can't wait to meet you there. So let's get right to that feature interview with Tiffany Angeles. Okay, you all, put on those earbuds, turn up the volume, and let's talk about all things food blogging and so much more. Hey everyone, I'm happy to have Tiffany Angeles of the site by the same name on the show today. Hey Tiffany, welcome to the Chopped Podcast.
Thanks so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I am so happy to talk with you, and I'm really looking forward to talking with you because, you've got such great expertise around the topic of money and monetizing creative ventures. And I think this is something that the audience here at Chopto is going to be really thrilled to hear from you about. But first, I thought it might be helpful for everybody if we could just take a step back and you could describe how you got to where you are right now.
Well, to be honest with you, I consider myself somewhat of a money nerd or geek because I am the type that reads all the books about money, and I just have been obsessed about studying it. But they say the thing that you teach is the thing that you struggle with. It took me a long time to get past my money blocks and figure out what was really causing problems in my money. And so that's why I spent so much time studying it. So now that I've kind of gone down that path, I feel like it's my responsibility to kind of take that information and hopefully put it out more succinctly so people don't have to spend 15 years figuring it out for themselves.
So was that your main way of basically getting to where you are right now, is through reading and teaching?
Yeah, way back when there was cassette tapes, I don't want to date myself, but I used to listen to tapes about people speaking about money. I read books about it. I went to conferences. I did everything I could to figure out where the real issues were with my money because, we'll probably address the wheel of misfortune, but I have always been quite tight-fisted, so I tend to pinch my pennies, and I wanted to be able to open myself up to creating more wealth for myself and not being so focused on worried about security and just creating that flow of money in my life.
Okay, I love that. And I'm really looking forward to getting into that, with you some more. Most of the listeners of this podcast are creative entrepreneurs, and a lot of them are focused on food. So I just have to ask you quickly before we get started into that, the money side of things. Do you have any particular affinity for food, or you just eat it, or are you a foodie or what?
Okay. I think I was meant to be a foodie. I think I have the extra taste buds or whatever, because I read this thing one time that said that some people actually have either more taste buds or different taste buds that they can taste more flavors. Yeah, so I'm very sensitive to bitter foods, and I'm very particular when it comes to food. I have to love it, and I will not eat in a hole-in-the-wall restaurant unless 5 people convince me to go there. I have to know that I'm going to like it before I eat it.
Yeah, my husband is the same way. I think they call them super foodies. They're very picky eaters in some ways.
Yeah, I am. It has to taste good.
That's good. So that means you do have an appreciation for food in some way, how it affects your life.
Yep, that's right.
That's great. So you talk on your site about the topic of anxiety, particularly as it relates to money. And I just want to clarify with you, I just got through, I did some life coaching, and that's definitely something that we uncovered. And actually, my life coach made something I thought was a very interesting observation, that we started out very poor. I mean, not poor by most people's standards, really poor. and I think, his description was the people that have trouble with money, oftentimes they have these very poor beginnings. It can cause anxiety as an adult. I'm just curious, with the people that you worked with, has that been the case as well?
Well, generally what happens when we're growing up, we either repeat the same pattern or we try to go in the opposite direction. And that's true. If you grow up very poor, you do a lot of stuff to get out of that, and you see a lot of people that were very poor become very wealthy because all of their energy goes to not being that way. Or you see people repeating the pattern. And, between those two extremes, I feel like there's a lot of people that want to be different. They don't want to repeat the pattern, but they don't necessarily have the tools or the information on how to be different, because we've been so ingrained with the way that we grew up that it's hard to see something different.
And I think that's got to be a tough thing to change unless you are consciously aware of it and want to change it, because it seems kind of it's I don't know, it's like breathing in some ways. How you think about money just feels like something that started as a child, and you don't think about it too much after that.
And that's true. And that's why one of my mantras that I say over and over again is awareness is progress. Because when it comes to money, we just a lot of times are on autopilot, and we are just doing the things enough to get by and enough to keep us at the current level that we're comfortable with, but we don't have any awareness around how to create peace with our money, how to feel, not feel the weight and the burden of the stress of running out of money at the end of every month. And so to get out of that, it just initially takes a little bit of awareness, like looking at what the real underlying root causes is, becoming aware of that. And as soon as you see it, for most people, it's like this light bulb goes on, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, I'm doing that. Like, I'm doing that in my money. And then now that you have awareness about it, you can start making progress to change it.
Oh, I like that. And so, what would be, do you have an example you can provide or, we can talk about me if you want. I mean, for example, I have this MBA, I've taken finance classes, I know all this stuff, but yet sometimes just being completely transparent here, I get stressed out, that once a month I have to go to my bank account and reconcile or do whatever I have to do. And it makes me crazy nervous. But my husband is the opposite. Like he will check every day our accounts, and which is wonderful because, he's right on top of if there's a problem, he's all over it. And I want to be more like that.
Well, it's good that you have the balance. I mean, we usually marry people that are the opposite of it.
Yes.
And I am not that into the details. So my husband checks the bank account every day. It's more about what you're doing to push money away from you and drive money away from you, or not allow yourself to bring it in. Because it becomes a problem when the anxiety is causing your money to kind of spin out of control. So even if your husband's looking at the details, it doesn't mean that something else he's doing isn't causing money to spin away. And the same thing for you, even though you're not looking at the details, like you may have avoidance in that area, it's just basically underlying issues around your money. So one of them is avoidance. And when we avoid it, we basically don't allow any of our attention to go there. And so where your attention goes, the energy flows there. And that's what you can magnify and make bigger. But when we avoid it, we basically don't allow our money to come in and be used in our lives. And money is just a currency, right? It's just a tool of exchange. But we place all of this extra attachment to it. I got to work really hard for it. It takes money to make money.
Yeah.
I don't feel spiritual if I have more money than my parents, or more money than my neighbors, or more money than the children in Africa. Like all of these things that we attach to money, but money doesn't care about that.
What about, I can imagine women can feel like if I make more money than my husband, that feels weird. I mean, maybe that's changing,
totally.
But yeah, it's been definitely around.
Yeah, I know. At the end of the day, you can read a book on how to make more money than your husband and how to be okay with it. But if you don't resolve the underlying guilt around it, then you're going to probably keep bringing yourself back down to the level that you feel comfortable with, because we never make more money than we think we deserve.
Oh my gosh, that's really powerful. Can you say that again?
Yeah, we never make more money than we think we deserve.
Wow.
So even though, you get this new job, and let's say it's making more money than your husband, if you feel like you don't deserve it, you'll do something unconsciously to sabotage that and bring you back down to a job where you feel more comfortable. So people will lose their jobs, they'll do something at work, they'll make a mistake, they'll create a situation where they get back to a level that they're comfortable with. And that's what you see all the time in sales and people who are blogging, and you're getting money from advertising or however that money's coming in. Yeah. If you see yourself hitting the same amount every year, and a lot of my clients that I work with are like this. You hit that same number within $5,000 every year. How is that possible? How is that possible when you're self-employed and you're bringing in different advertisers every year, or you're bringing in different income, or you're selling,
your traffic is going up and down, right? Yeah.
Yeah. How is it that you hit the same amount within a few $1,000s every year? That's you. It's always you. It's you that's doing it. That's the level that you're comfortable with. And so you find ways to make that, and you find ways to not make less than that, but you just keep yourself at that level.
Wow. So it's kind of like a Zen thing then about how much money you make. Is that, I mean, I'm just curious, what are some of the things that we can do to, first, like you say, be aware, and then second, to kind of start to resolve some of that?
Well, the awareness aspect is, I have the Wheel of Misfortune, and that basically is the 8 things that we do to drive money away from us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you all 8 right here, but if you readers and listeners want to go into detailed description of each one, you can go to tiffanyangelis.com/wheel, WHEEL, and that will give you kind of definitions. But one of them we've talked about is avoidance. Another one is guilt and shame, and this one comes a lot about of spiritual guilt or bad programming when we were little, of people telling us, that we couldn't be that, couldn't do that, couldn't have that. So guilt and shame is a huge one for a lot of people that keeps a ceiling on the level of money that we make. Mm. Not receiving, you'll see this when you can't say the price in a sales meeting, when somebody says, oh, I want to buy this service, how much is it? And you have all this anxiety come up and, you just cannot receive the money that people are trying to give you.
Yes.
Overgiving is not the same as giving. I'm all for giving, but overgiving is when we give to get a feeling in return. So if I give you this, I'm going to feel like a better person. If I pay for this lunch for everybody, then I'm the big shot, then I'm cool, then people will respect me. But you're paying to get a feeling in return. That's not the same thing as giving out of selflessness.
Yes.
No boundaries is not being able to set boundaries for yourself, and that's basically the opposite, where you won't set a boundary because you don't want to feel something. So in overgiving, we're trying to get a feeling by giving money, but in no boundaries, we don't want to feel something. So if I don't set a boundary, then I don't have to feel that you're upset with me. I don't have to feel the pushback that you're going to give me, so I just will not stand up for myself.
Yeah, it's like victimizing myself, right?
Yes. Overspending is pretty self-explanatory. Yeah. We know if we do that. And then resentment is, a lot of people have resentment around their money because, the economy went bad, the housing market crashed, somebody took money from me. I was supposed to have this money, but something went wrong. A lot of people have resentment around their money. And when you have resentment, you basically spin this world around you that you live in this world of negativity, and there's no way to draw new money or let money flow through your life when you're in that state of resentment. And then finally, tight-fistedness. And tight-fistedness is my category. I think you're born with it in some respects. I'm half Dutch, so I'm like a penny pincher by nature. And it basically is holding on to money as security, and not, you don't spend money because you're just holding on to it so tight in some weird idea that it's going to keep me safe,
Yes.
But when you're in that state, there's no flow of money there, and you're not growing, and you basically create like a stagnant water situation, and that's not good for anybody. You think it's good, but it's not.
So is a person one of these things or a mixture of many of them?
A lot of people will say they're everything. Usually they're everything except tight-fisted, or they're tight-fisted, because tight-fisted is kind of the opposite.
Yes.
And then sometimes people only have a few, so it just depends. And at the end of the day, what we really try and work down to is, what is the one that's causing you the most pain with your money? So if you have a lot of guilt around money, a lot of guilt around making more money, that tends to be a really big one. And if we can deal with the guilt issue first and open that up, then you'll see that you can open up yourself to making more money, and that flow of money then comes into your life, and then you can start to work on some of the other ones and tighten up your boundaries and stuff like that.
Well, I can see where that really comes into place. So, for example, if I have this guilt and shame about money, then when a brand approaches me to do a sponsored post, I may not ask for as much, or if they offer me a smaller amount, I'll just take it. I mean, in other words, you won't ask for what you're worth, and you won't go in and ask for the raise. There's a lot of things tied to that.
So many, and that's why guilt and shame sits right next to not receiving on the wheel, because they go hand in hand, and those both come down to more of a self-worth issue. Like, am I worthy of receiving this money from somebody? Because, people are like, oh, I don't know what price to charge, or I don't know how much this should be for advertising on my site, or, all these things. You can get help with that and say, okay, this should be this price. But if you are having feelings of self-worth and not feeling worthy of receiving money for what you think is not enough work. So in other words, I put a course out there, I make it $200, but after I recoup my costs and I feel like I've made enough, then I feel guilty for any further money coming in because I didn't work hard enough for it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Then you're gonna find yourself that course is no longer selling all of a sudden. But that's really you. Like, that's you putting your energy out there so that you hit your mark at the end of the year of the same dollar amount.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. It feels in some ways very complicated, but yet it sounds to me like the solution can be very simplistic in some ways. It's really about getting to, your inner self and really understanding, what you're about and what your goals are. Yeah,
because at the end of the day, it's always about us. It's what we're putting out there, and that's reflecting back to us. And so it is really simple. That's why the first step is just awareness. Look at the wheel, see which category you feel is the strongest for you, because you may read through and, there's times in my life where I feel like I personally have really strong boundaries, but there's times where I don't set a boundary. And there's other things where I overgive and, I overspend. And it's just about tightening those things up. But as you read through them, you'll be like, okay, this is really me. Like this slice of the wheel is causing a lot of problems in my money. And that's, where you need to focus first.
So how can people know, do you have some kind of assessment tool that people can help understand if, which one of these they are?
I have that tiffanyangels.com/wheel. That's the best way, that there's descriptions of each one so that you can kind of see what you identify with, and then you'll know where to start working. Because what I don't want for people is I don't want people to be overwhelmed. And if you look at the wheel and you see yourself in a lot of the categories, then the chances are your money's probably spinning way out of control. And if that's the case, then we start with avoidance. Because avoidance is that kind of gateway drug. It's like the entry level. Everybody has it. It's just to what level you have it, right? Yeah. There's always times in our life that we're going to avoid something. And there's always times where money situations come up and you don't want to look at it. But if you feel like you're everything and your money's spinning out of control, then first we basically turn our attention towards it. So that's combating the avoidance so that we can then basically make the steps necessary to continue to put our energy towards our money. And when we do that, you start to see everything shift.
Okay, so I feel like I want to start a hashtag. It would be WWTD. What would Tiffany do? I mean, would you suggest for somebody who has trouble with avoidance, maybe I might be suggesting myself that one way of dealing with that would be I need to go into my account every day.
Yeah. In fact, one of the people that I coached, she actually made a really good income. She made a lot of money, but she didn't have any money at the end of the year. And so one of the things, she had avoidance, and then her next biggest one was the no boundaries and overgiving section. So what we did was started with the avoidance and said every day you're going to look at her bank account. And as she did that, this is the thing about avoidance, and we all know this to be true, is that when we turn our attention towards it, it's like turning the light on, and then all of a sudden there's no monster in the closet.
Right.
When you do it and take action and look at it every day, you realize it isn't quite as scary as you made it to be in your mind. And that's why if we can just put our energy towards it, then we can begin to shift it. So as she looked at it every day, then she could begin dealing with the next level, which was the no boundaries, and beginning to stand up for herself and not overgiving, not paying for everything for everyone around her, and realizing that was only to build her own self-worth, that she was paying for people's lunches in order to feel good about herself. So dealing with those underlying issues, now she has 6 figures in her savings account.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, because once you shift it, then it's like you basically remove that block and you allow the money to flow in your life. You're not the blockage anymore.
Wow, it feels, even just hearing you say that, just the idea of making myself go into my account every day and be aware of it, all of a sudden I just feel kind of powerful about it.
Yes, and that's what she said. She's like, now I actually find it fun to look at my money.
Wow.
Like, you just have to get past that first thing. It's like the monster in the closet. You just don't want to open the door. But if you can just make yourself do the first step,
Yeah.
like if you can just address the avoidance and like look at it, then that will build the momentum. And my thing in life is really about empowering people. And the thing is, if I can empower you to take that first step and look at it, you then empower yourself after that, because you basically have done something then to get your power back, and then you can continue to snowball that. And the more that you look at it and the more that you continue to address it, you begin empowering your own self to move forward with your money.
You're like the money whisperer or something.
Yeah, well, that's a good one. Maybe I should hashtag that.
I think you definitely should hashtag that. But it's funny because I feel like I spend a lot of my energy focusing on people-to-people interactions and how my dynamic is with other people. And I actually just shared an example on the podcast a few weeks ago where I was in this situation where I totally gave my power over to somebody else. And I can kind of see where, if we look at money as a person, it's the same kind of thing, right? If you're giving your energy over, or
Totally.
it comes down to the same thing. You got to resolve that issue with yourself.
Yeah, you do, because money isn't meant to be any of the things that we attach to it. We give money way too much power. It simply is a currency. And a lot of that comes from bad programming. We vilify the rich, and we think that having a lot of money is bad. And, but if you could just pull back the curtain and see that most of that's not really true, you find people who do bad things that are wealthy and do bad things that are poor, and do bad things when they're middle class. It isn't about the money. It's about the person.
Okay, so Tiffany, here's something that I feel about that, and that is sometimes I attribute the title of successful to people who make a lot of money. So there are people within food blogging and also just blogs in general that they will put their monthly income statements, and you can see that they're making 20, 30,000 a month or whatever. And sometimes in my mind, whether I consciously think about it or not, I think that's success. And so that's what's like. It feels like something, oh my gosh, it's so far away. It's really hard to get to.
Yeah. So one of the other things that you can get on my site is the money motivation quiz. Oh. And that will basically direct you to one of 4 things that is your cause for making money. So one of the things is being the best. And somebody that has a need to make a lot of money and have the best car and have the best house, that is a thing for some people, and that's okay. But you can't compare yourself to them if your motivation for making money is family and fun. Mm-hmm. If you really want to take your money and have fun and travel and be with your family and, do those sorts of things, then it's completely fruitless for you to compare yourself to somebody whose motivation is being the best. Like, there's no use for you to buy nice cars when that actually is meaningless to you. Then you kind of got your navigation system off a little bit. You can take that quiz and see one of the 4 things and figure out what actually motivates you to make money. And then build your business around that. So if your motivation is helping others, for instance, then you're going to need to make sure that your business is dedicating some money that you can give back to helping people. Yes. Or if it's family and fun, then maybe you need to design a business that has more residual income so that you can spend more time with family. So looking at that motivation will help direct your business in a more global reach, in a more global trajectory, like seeing the higher, bigger picture of what you want so that you can plan strategically. Because otherwise you get into copying another food blogger who's doing something that their motivation is completely different than yours. Yes. And then you end up doing that thing that they're doing and you're unhappy.
So in other words, I'm kind of comparing my insides to their outsides, or we're just not in the same group. Like if they're in this group, like you say, of being the best and they're making all this money, they're probably working 12 hours a day or whatever. And that's, probably not within my values. I don't want to work 12 hours a day.
Maybe not. Because if you can resolve the issue of it takes a lot of hard work to make money, maybe they're making a lot of residual income. You don't know. You have to basically design it towards what your motivation is, and then at the same time, you have to work through what your own blocks are. Because it doesn't mean that if your motivation is family and fun that you can't make a lot of money.
Ah, okay. Thank you.
You just
That's
have
good
to
to know.
make money. Yeah, you just have to make money in a different way. You know,
Yeah.
like some people love building businesses. Like their life is dedicated to building business and the thrill of building a business, and they're, die-hard entrepreneurs, and that's all they want to spend their time on. But that doesn't mean that for somebody else that's running the business, that's their life. It may just be their way of making income so they can spend time with their family.
Right.
So that's where it's different. Just because someone puts in a lot of time, maybe that is their fun. Like for me, I love working on my business. So like I put a lot of time there, but I want to. I read a lot of books for my business because that's what I really want to do. I thought years ago, man, people always say, find what you love and then see if you can get paid for it. And I was like, haha, yeah, right. I love to sit and read books about money. Who's going to pay me for that?
Oh, wow.
So it is true.
I guess you showed yourself.
Like, yeah, exactly. So it's true. You can still make a lot of money. So I just don't want to get that confused with the motivation,
Okay. Wow, this sounds all very, it's like the zen of making money really, because you have to go through those 8 and see which one you have to deal with. And then you also have to define what is success for you. And then it sounds to me like from that point, you have to be open to, what avenues of revenue making fit best for you.
And you'll find those pretty easily. Once you begin to remove the blocks, like that stuff will come to you, because this whole process is a process of changing yourself. And the cool thing is it's going to fix your money, but it will also fix other areas of your life. Because if you notice, the things on the wheel are a little bit more wide-ranging than just money, but they affect our money, but they also affect our relationships, and they affect our health. You can turn overspending into overeating. Like you can see how they kind of run through our lives. And so what I really want to get at is what is the underlying reason that we are pushing this money away from us, so that we fix that, and then you have a long-term solution. Versus, I could tell you certainly how to have a better budget, or, how to figure out, a better tax structure or something like that.
Invest.
But that's only a Band-Aid, because if you still think you only deserve that same amount of money every year, then fixing your budget is just going to be a lot of work to make the same amount of money.
Right. And I can also see where that your mindset on money also impacts your business because of, the whole nature of risk and risk aversion. I mean, if you're this highly risk averse person with your money, you may also be that way with your business. And, that's
totally
something that, has to be thought about. When you're an entrepreneur, it's almost as if you really need to kind of reduce your aversion to risk.
Yeah, and I'm not a super risk-taking person, and so I have to go about it a little bit different way, and making change for me is a little bit of a slower process because I'm not quite so risk-taking as other entrepreneurs. And so that's just going along, the lines of my personality and what fits best for me. And doing things like that. That's why you see one expert says this and another expert says that. And, who do I listen to?
Yeah.
You got to listen to the person that goes along your flow. It's what river are you in and what are they in, and then follow their advice. Because if you try and follow someone that's telling you to take a bunch of risk and just do it, but that's not your river, then you're going to have a big problem.
Yeah. You're going to need a bigger canoe or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so great. So do you have any other advice for, entrepreneurs? Particularly I think about, the issue of invoicing. I know this is I feel like all of these answers may lead back to the same thing. And that is, if you're having trouble asking or, completing the money that, you've already done the work for, that might be a sign that, you have issues with 1 through 8.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you a quick practice for that. And it could be invoicing or anything else that you're having anxiety around.
Okay.
And this is going to be really life-changing for you if you actually do it. And that is, whenever I come up against something that's causing me anxiety, then what I do is I start to say out loud, and I usually do it in the shower or if you're driving or something where somebody can't hear you so you don't sound like a nutcase. But I say out loud in the shower, okay, I am avoiding invoicing because I feel. And you're just going to keep saying that at least 10 times. So I'm avoiding sending my invoices because I feel like people are going to respond and say that what they got wasn't worth the money I charged them. I'm avoiding invoicing because I feel like, somebody's going to come back to me and say my price was too high. I'm avoiding invoicing because I feel like if I send this invoice, then, they're going to tell their friends that I wasn't worth it. Whatever it is, and you probably will find that you won't hit the real thing until about numbers 8 and 10. That's going to begin to show you and surface what the real thing is that you're dealing with. And then, like I said at the beginning, awareness is progress. And once you hear it come out of your mouth, you're going to know. You're like, okay, I didn't realize that I was avoiding invoicing really because I feel like I'm not worth it.
Yeah. Wow.
So until you can get it and you say it, you have to say it out loud. That's the thing, though. Most people don't want to do that. When you say it out loud, it basically comes out of your mouth and goes back into your brain in an audible form, which it's almost like you're hearing it from another person. And when you hear it back into your brain, like through the audible channel, it's like you wake up and you're like, oh, I didn't even know I was thinking that. Versus what we normally do is run it round and round in our brain. We think about it and think about it and think about it, and we think, I gotta send invoices. I gotta send invoices tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. And then 3 weeks have gone by and you still haven't done it. Then you got to get it up and out of your body, and you do that by saying it out loud.
Saying it out loud. I love that. I think you could probably apply that sentence to a lot of struggles you could be going through. I'm avoiding blank because of,
It's what are you avoiding and what do you, because I feel, you got to get to the underlying thing of, this is what I'm avoiding because I feel like this is going to happen, or I feel like I am not worth it, or I feel like, you got to get to the underlying feeling. And when you can address that, then you'll be home free because that awareness will all of a sudden turn that light on.
I love it. That is such a great tip. I think all of these tips shared today have been really helpful. I saw you first on Creative Live, and that was amazing. Do you have any more opportunities like that are coming up for you that you're going to be sharing soon?
Well, as we talked about earlier, I have a podcast, the Soulful Business Podcast, so I'm putting a lot of my effort and energy towards that right now, and then I do one-on-one coaching. And I will be doing some more stuff coming up, but I don't have any dates for it yet right now. So we'll be doing some more online courses and stuff like that. But you can still access the Creative Live course, so people can purchase that. It's Make More Money and Discover Your Worth on creativelife.com. So that kind of goes over the wheel. Yeah.
I'll leave the link in the show notes page. And also, did you say your podcast is Soulful Business?
Yeah, Soulful Business. And that is really everything that we've been talking about. But to me, and I do it with my husband, the main driver is that we are the ones that are creating these businesses. Because I'm talking to small business owners and people like your audience that are bloggers and stuff like that. It's us that is doing this because we're so intimately involved with our business. And it's changing us that creates a better business. And we all want to get all this information on how I can do better marketing and how I can get more sales and how I can have a better website and all this stuff. And those are good and you should do those. But if you don't get to the underlying reason, and so we say that basically entrepreneurship is the modern journey to self-discovery.
Oh my
You're not
God,
going to build
a
better business until you can build yourself.
That is so cool. I love that because so honestly, I have over the years listened to all of these business kind of podcasts, the Smart Passive Income and all these, that they're all talking about the strategic part of blogging or entrepreneurship. And it's great. And I love all that stuff. However, I just have found myself drawn lately to more spiritual sides. Like I've listened to the Robcast and, I'm listening to things that are more spiritual in nature. So I'm definitely going to put yours on my my list now because I do feel like you're right that there's something about this that's definitely very soulful. And if you don't quite get that, I think, I think that really helps you understand why you're doing this in the first place.
Yeah, and I mean, all of the tips that they give are awesome, but if you find yourself implementing them and not making more money or not keeping more money or not making progress, then you've got to take a step back and say, okay, what am I doing to create this situation?
Right. I mean, like they might have an episode on how to get more Instagram followers. And I think, okay, that's great. I want to do these things. But then I think, why do I want more Instagram followers anyway? I mean, no, it's not that I don't want more Instagram followers. My question is, do I want to spend my time on getting more Instagram followers?
Yeah, it's the time that's limited, not money.
Yes, exactly. That's so true. That's right. So this has been wonderful. I have loved talking with you. I've got just a few quick and fun questions I like to ask everybody at the end of the interview. So these are just fun. So what's one food item you can't live without?
Sugar. Can I say sugar?
You could say sugar. And how is your favorite way of eating sugar?
Particularly in cheap pastry cake type stuff. Like the fancy ones that are really decadent, I'm not into that. Like Costco cake, I love. That's terrible. Your food bloggers are gonna hate me.
No,
I don't know. Something about cheap white cake I love.
Yeah, like the wedding cake kind.
Terrible. Yeah.
So I have to ask you, are you a corner piece or a middle piece kind of person? Because one has more icing than the other.
Yeah, no, I'll take the frosting.
Me too. I'm all over the frosting. Frosting's good.
Well, my friend used to eat only the frosting, like scrape all the. I can't do that. I have to have a little cake with it.
Yeah, you got to have a little cake. Yeah, I used to tell my daughter that cake, it's like your life, and you really want to have a really good cake, and then all the good stuff. The frosting is the part that makes it even more fun.
Yep, have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so what's the favorite app on your phone?
Oh gosh, I'm not a big app person, but I have a Grocery IQ app that puts it in the sections in the grocery store. You just type in like bread and it puts it in the bakery section so I can make my grocery store experience fast.
Wow, that's great. What's it called again?
Grocery IQ. So I just type in all the things that I need and then it puts it out by category in the grocery store. So handy. That
is very handy. Very cool. And then every time you think of something that you need to get, you just go into that app and put it in there.
Yeah, put it on my phone, and then I can send it to somebody. So I can send it to my husband if I want him to go to the store or something, then he can just pick it up.
Oh, that is so cool. Okay, do you have any time for TV at all? And if you do, what's your favorite show?
Okay, I do try and make time to watch one show a night, and you're gonna make me pick one show? Oh gosh.
You can name a couple if you want.
Okay, well, I hate to say The Walking Dead because that's not my genre. My husband got me stuck on it, and so now Fear the Walking Dead just came out. And Fear the Walking Dead is so awesome because it's like back to the original Walking Dead. Like it's like scary and intense, whereas the original Walking Dead, it's like now they can kill the zombies, so it's like no big deal. But the Fear the Walking Dead, it's like, oh my God, they're gonna get eaten. Yeah.
That's really good. So I haven't watched it, but it sounds good.
Oh my gosh, it's really the character development, not the zombies that I like. So I'll put that out there.
I think that's quotable. Really That'd be a great T-shirt.
So I don't know why I like it.
Okay, what's another one? Do you have another favorite show?
Oh, I love Nashville. I'm a big country music fan. I always have been. I love the harmony in country music, so I love Nashville.
I love harmony too, so that's really cool. And Nashville, what do they do? Just like, show the lives of different country music stars?
Oh, yeah, but they sing in the show. And I don't download music. Like, I'm not a big music buff, and I downloaded their first season of music. It was so good.
Wow. Sounds great.
Yeah, because the way they interweave the singing in the show is like perfect. Because I hate the musical made-to-movie, stuff. Like, I'm not into that, but the way Nashville does it is genius. It's so good.
I have to check it out. That sounds good. Okay, so how can people find you online?
TiffanyAngels.com has basically access to everything. You can get me on Facebook, Instagram, like we talked about. I'm not a big Twitter person, but YouTube as well.
Wonderful. Tiffany, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me. I had a great time.
Awesome. Me too. Thank you.
Thanks so much to Tiffany Angeles for being my guest on today's episode of the Chopped Podcast. Be sure to go to choppedpodcast.com to buy your tickets to the conference, learn more about today's show, and sign up for our newsletter to get in on the latest things about food blogging. Tune in next week as I talk with Kate All about Pinterest. You know you have questions about the best ways to use that traffic powerhouse. Well, Kate has answers. It's great stuff, and I can't wait to share this interview with you. I hope you're loving the Chopped Podcast. You know you can show your support for the show by leaving a review on iTunes or Stitcher. You can share about the show on social media or even leave a link on your own blog or podcast. And you know I love getting your emails, so keep them coming. You inspire me so much, and I hope today's show was helpful and inspirational to you as well. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.